Hello, Gut Health Recovery Group. I can't actually see properly what's going on here. We've got school pick up early today. It's the last day of term. And I am attempting to go live in two places. So I'm going to have my hands, and I normally talk with my hands, so this is a bit hard. We had a few questions this week about emotional eating. Okay, thanks, buddy. And I've got a sickie in the back here. So we've had a few questions about emotional eating, and that is what I'm going to talk about today. As soon as I work out how to go live on Instagram at the same time, oh gosh, I don't think I'm going to be able to work that out. Let's just stick with Facebook and upload it. So the questions were around how can hypnosis help with emotional eating? And I've seemed to have had quite a few clients this week with this same issue. Sorry for the background coughing. And there's a lot of strategies that we use for emotional eating, but the first thing is awareness. So number one, what is emotional eating? And it's looking for food or finding yourself at the cupboard while you are finding yourself at the cupboard or at the fridge, and not really knowing why. And I guess it's also when we have an emotion, that chemical reaction that you get from a feeling or emotion, it is instant. So you don't even realize that you are feeling something unless you're really in touch with where you know that you feel things. So getting in touch with where you feel in your body. And then often, so for example, I feel sadness, I feel my shoulders slump forward when I feel sad, but I don't actually know that I'm sad. When I think back about a sad situation, I know that my posture changes and I slump forward, and I probably go and look for things that are going to make me feel good and give me an endorphin rush. So for some people, that would be certain foods or drinks, may even be alcohol. So the first thing is becoming aware of what you do when you feel sad, what we call the negative emotions. But they're not necessarily negative. They are still emotions and they're still important. But when they're unresourceful and we are pushing them down, trying not to feel them, that's when they become a problem. So as kids, we're taught that, you fall over, oh, here, have a lolly. Or, you're having a meltdown as a kid and you say, oh, I think maybe they're hangry or hungry. So we are taught as kids, and we are conditioned from a very young age, that food is required whenever we are feeling something, or if we're feeling something that may not be resourceful at the time, we need food. So when I work with people for emotional eating, the first thing is identifying what's going on. So doing what's called an eating awareness record, and I'm nearly certain that the eating awareness record is in the resources section in the group. And that involves working out what's going on when you are eating, even when you're eating regular meals. So having a look at what you're having where you are when you're eating, who you're with, what the time is, how hungry or full you are, what your emotions are or how you're feeling or what your thoughts are, what you ate, and then doing the same thing for after so you eat it, and then doing the same thing for after you've eaten, which can be quite taxing. Sorry, buddy. It can be quite emotionally taxing to do that. So I often only recommend people do it for maybe 2-3 days max, or even do it one day, have a day off, do it the next day, have a day off, and then do it the following day. But to get a good grasp on what's going on for you, it's good to be able to do it for a couple of times, at least 2 or 3 times, and then having a look at from there any trends that might happen. So when I did this with was with a man in my private clinic, we worked out first. He did the emotional eating record, eating awareness record first. And then once he had finished that, we'd noticed that he was always eating after dinner. And his thoughts were, I'm bored. And boredom is a really common one. His thoughts were, oh, I'm bored, nothing else to do, but he would always be looking for something sweet. When we worked that out, he became aware of that. So then for the following week, we sort of tried to work out what his triggers were. So was it that when he got home from work, had dinner, sat down and started then thinking that he was bored, that he needed something in his mouth? Or was it that he realized that he was alone and that wasn't a nice feeling? It didn't feel good to be alone, and he was trying to look for something that would give him an endorphin rush to combat that. So we need to, I guess the first thing again is always working out what works for you or what is going on for you, because there is no one size fits all to any diet, any gut health program, any healthy eating plan or anything like that. There's no one size fits all. So it's always about working out what's going on for you and then looking at the trends. And once you know the trends, then you've got something to work with. Then you can start saying, all right, and this is where the Gloria Wilcox emotion wheel is really, really important. And again, I can put that up in the group. Because often when I ask somebody, how do you know when you're feeling an emotion or what emotion you're feeling? Most people, the first emotion that comes to mind would be happiness, and then maybe sadness or anger, and then fear. And then people kind of stop. They don't really know what they're feeling. They don't really have words for the feelings that they have past those sort of 4 or 5 major ones. So first, becoming aware of all of the emotions that are in the spectrum, and allowing you to feel whatever you can feel. So allowing that feeling to wash over you and run through you, because there is no such thing as something that, like, feelings are only problems when we push them down or they happen in an unresourceful way. So laughing when you're getting into trouble, or I was talking about this last night. Laughing when you're getting into trouble is one. Being so angry that you can't think straight is another one, or becoming so anxious that you mess up something that you've been preparing for a really long time. So becoming aware of what you're feeling is really the first step of this, and then becoming aware of if you are eating when you are feeling something, because then you can start to see that you might, whenever you feel low, or whenever you've had a hard day at work, you might find that you're having chocolate or wine or chips, or you might skip dinner. That's another one too. So becoming aware of what you're doing and then working on strategies to, once you're aware, you know what you're working with, so you can start to have some strategy, put some strategies in place to change those behaviors. When I work with somebody one-on-one for this, we do a lot of hypno, talking about emotional awareness, and realizing that food is not going to help you with emotional feelings. So we first of all would sort of gently introduce those ideas. I'd get people keeping that record. And then the next thing I would do is what's called timeline therapy, which is about releasing the negative emotions that we have in general. So we've all got, I'm sure everybody's heard the analogy of emotional cups. We have different cups for different emotions. And as a kid, we keep building, like, we feel something, we don't really know what it is, so we put it in that cup. And then we feel something again and we don't really know what it is, and we put it in another cup, and we start grouping feelings together in different cups. By the time you're an adult, if you haven't learned what you've needed to learn from those memories and those situations that have brought up those feelings, then your cup for each of those emotions is full. And when you have what we call negative emotions or unresourceful emotions at the time, if our anger cup is full, it doesn't take much for us to react angrily to something. If our fear cup is full, it doesn't take much for us to get anxious about something. If our sadness cup is full, it doesn't take much for us to cry at the drop of a hat for something that we wouldn't normally cry for. So what I would do is then work on resetting those negative emotions, what we call negative emotions, but it's really just the unresourcefulness. So that you're able to feel those emotions for the purpose that they are meant for. So it's not necessarily that you'll never feel again, but it's about releasing the hold that those emotions have on you so that you can continue to move forward and then not need to numb or not need to get rid of that feeling because it's so scary. The chemical reaction from that feeling doesn't really last long in the body, and it can be it's okay to feel. So it's teaching people that on an unconscious level, which is what hypno does. We talk about it on an unconscious level. I'm going to leave it there because it's getting very hot in the car with the sun shining in, and the little coffer in the background here is not feeling 100%. So I will leave it there for another Friday. Hopefully that was informative. If you have any questions or any follow-up questions, let me know. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this topic as well. Happy Friday, everyone. Bye.